Hey there, this is Kristen Haynes with the waywardhome.com, and I spend half the year in my camper van and half on my sailboat. And if you are listening to this or watching it on YouTube, you might hear some loud sounds in the background because I am in a boatyard right now getting our boat ready to launch. So I apologize for that in advance. But today I am speaking with Brady Severt, founder of Gravity Vans. Where Brady's company stands out from other van conversion companies is that their goal is to produce a camper van really quickly. And I'm really excited to be talking with him more about that. So, Brady, thanks so much for coming on the Wayward Home podcast. I'm really excited to talk to you about everything.
Yeah, I'm excited as well. I appreciate you taking the time to chat with us about what we're up to, chat about gravity vans and kind of the mobile living and lifestyle.
Totally. So, first of all, I want to hear a little more about your story. I know you lived in, a different types of tiny homes. So, tell me a little bit about you.
Yeah, I'd love to give a little background. So, my wife and I currently live full time in our tiny house out in Boulder, and we've been ridiculously blessed to live on like a 130-acre property, essentially staring right at the mountains. We get the flat irons and Long's Peak from bed. But we had, a bit of a process to get here. It's like it's easy to say like here we are now and we love it and it's great, but it didn't come without some turbulence and a fun story. And so, kind of where we started is that my wife and I grew up in Michigan, got good degrees out there, I got an engineering degree, and we had to move west. And so we came west out to Boulder. I had a great medical device job out here doing corporate engineering work. And out of nowhere, we had surprise company meeting. They said, everybody in the break room now, cancel it, bring your neighbors. And in about 15 minutes, we had like the corporate head of engineering. This is a 20,000 person company, and they came in the back door and in 15 minutes basically said this whole office is shut down. All 120 of you hit the road. You're fired. Here's some severance. Like best of luck. Um, so we had a very interesting start to moving to Boulder. And then about 2 months after that, it was COVID. And so here we are stranded looking for work. No one's hiring. We're sitting out here in Boulder looking for something to do. And at that point, I had converted the back of my truck to be a camper setup. I'm pretty handy, have some engineering backgrounds. Like, I think I can do this more full time. And so out of the blue, I just start converting campers, left and right from Nextdoor and Facebook, people, messaging on there, hey, I need some help, within my electrical. And I was just jumping on those posts. I have like my side hustle was actually on the side of my house. I had vans lined up. I'm kind of doing full-time work, as a lot of people in this industry seem to get started. And from there, it just kind of transitioned to like, I should probably do this a little more formally and like actually introduce some of my engineering skills and like, take a real job out of this. So I worked in the van space for the last about 3 years doing kind of engineering and project management for a bunch of different companies, and had some great experiences scaling a couple businesses, helping them to get to, over 200 vans a year. And as part of just being in that process, we decided like, why don't we do this? We should be living this lifestyle. And you want to buy a home, and in Boulder it's unbelievably expensive. And so the only affordable way to do it was my wife and I had a conversation for about 10 minutes, and next thing you know, we had ordered a trailer from Georgia and it was coming to get delivered to our neighborhood. And so, we had an interesting start to the whole. Then we ended up working on a tiny house throughout a year. We've been living in it for a year and a half now, and been living the kind of the van life and living and breathing all of it, in a professional sense and a personal sense for really the last 3 years.
Very cool. So it sounds like, so you have a converted van and a tiny house? Is that your current situation?
So currently we actually have a converted truck, and we're trying to roll that into a van, because what we've learned in life is it's really hard to go backwards in amenities. Like we used to love camping so much, and then we got a truck set up, and now we camp a lot less. We just spend our time, living out of the truck on the weekends. And now that we've been in the van space for so long, it's kind of like we could have radiant floor heat in a van or a little propane stove in the truck. So like we're now trying to upgrade that as well.
That's so true about, you can't really go backward because we actually started in a Prius, went to an Astro, and now we have a Sprinter van, which we're DIYing, and it just seems so huge. I'm like, I can't go back to like a small van or a Prius. So it is, you get
Yeah, and
used.
I'm sure Yeah.
Yeah, and the
And at the
boat.
time, I'm sure you loved the Prius and figured like, oh, this is the best thing we could ever have. And then you step up one little step and it's like, man, that was terrible. Why do we do the Prius thing? We should get a van.
Exactly. So, yeah, for you, what appeal does the van have? Like you said, the radiant heat, but what are some other aspects that a van has, like over your a truck, camper setup?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. And so what we try to focus on at Gravity Vans is installing all the comforts of home. Like when you set out for a weekend or set out for full-time living, do you have everything that you need? Like, does it feel like this is just, normal daily life? And so we make sure we have, great HVAC systems, whether it be forced air heat, radiant floor heat. We have air conditioning in all of our units, hidden showers. That our big focus is that, so many people, having worked in the van space for a few years, everyone wants a shower. Like you think, I need this because everywhere else you've lived has a shower. And then you get in the van and it takes up all this space and you realize like I'm showering less because I'm on the road. I've got limited water capacity and I don't really need it as much. And so we put like hidden stainless steel showers in a bench. That way you have the amenity, and you need to shower, you can do that inside internally. It's great. But also you put the lid on the bench, it's a great comfortable couch, and then you're not taking up all the space. So we try to make sure that all the systems are in there, whether that be the plumbing or the electrical, that the second you leave for the on the road, you're already at home.
Yeah, and I'm also so curious about your tiny house because that's something that I'm dreaming about one day as well. There's just so many varieties of tiny homes to live in, from, vans and trucks and boats and tiny homes like you have. So is your house like a tiny house on wheels, or what's it like?
Yeah, that is a good follow-up because there are so many different versions. And we took kind of an interesting approach. So we have a tiny house on wheels, and it's a cargo enclosed trailer. So it's really just a big black box. And when you look at it from the outside, it hardly looks like a tiny house. And part of the reason we went that route is that we had an interesting use case. And like in engineering, you kind of create a use and say like, what are the functions we want to achieve? And one of the things we wanted to achieve with our house was we wanted it to go 75 miles an hour, and we wanted to be able to, pick up and go, at the drop of a hat. And at this point, like we could probably leave in 45 minutes. So we could move anywhere in America in under an hour. And so we went, to fit that need, we got a cargo enclosed trailer that essentially you can pull a car in. That when we bought it, we pulled a friend's Subaru in there, took it around the block just to make sure like, hey, this thing works. And that saved us a lot of time and money on like fabricating the outside. And you had the shell, so all we had to do was then work inwards. So that became a great use for exactly what we need.
That's so interesting. So it's not like a traditional, like, tiny home on wheels that people might imagine. It sounds like it's a whole reimagined project of yours.
Exactly. And so it still has like all the comforts of home on the inside, and we butcher block countertops, and it's a great setup. But on the outside, it really just looks like a cargo trailer. And it also makes it a lot easier to park places too, because it's a lot less suspicious than a two-story cedar shake tiny house that you kind of envision when you hear the word tiny house.
Yeah, for sure. And so how big is it? How long is it?
So it's 30 feet long, and we were fortunate to get taller ceilings on the inside. So I'm 6'4", and I was like, I'm not going to be hunched over every day. And so we actually still have 8-foot ceilings on the inside of our trailer.
Wow, this is so cool. I'll have to get pictures from you and put it on in the website show notes of this so people can come in and see your tiny house because it sounds really cool.
Yeah, we'll have to send some along. It's a different kind of take on the norm of what you hear when you have tiny house.
Yeah, I love that. And have you guys mostly been in Boulder with it, or have you moved around with it quite a bit?
We wanted to move around with it, but then we ended up just being pretty stationary. It's like we lucked out with good jobs here. My wife is an elementary school teacher, so she teaches special ed here for K through 5, and we're not too far from her school, and we found this beautiful property. So we had these dreams of like we're gonna drive all over, and then we've just been settled for a while. But the benefit of owning a great asset is that you get to continue to have it for a while. And so, at some point we would want to get back kind of into more nomadic living, but right now we're comfortably stationary and loving that we have reduced rent because of it.
Very true. Yeah. So tell me more about your company, Gravity Vans. We touched on it a little bit, but what type of operation is this? Do you have like a huge warehouse where you're building vans, or like describe it to us?
Yeah, happy to jump into it. And so what we're doing at Gravity Vans is that I've been in the engineering space for about 3 years, kind of like I had said before, in the van space, and watched a bunch of companies succeed and scale and grow in different ways. But I just love growth and progression. And one big thing about that is like you see this pain point throughout the van industry of like these builds are taking months. Hey, we have a 6 month schedule. You can't get on it for 6 months, and then it's going to take us 6 to 8 months to get your build kicked out. And just to see that inefficiency in so many places really inspired me of like, why does it take so long? And so we've really focused on improving the engineering, improving like the non-sexy things, the manufacturing process. How can we assemble cabinetry quicker? And so I started Gravity Vans with that focus of how can we turn a van in 6 weeks or less. And so at the moment we're still a small operation. At today it's just me, and I've got a small shop space, looking to do some hiring here coming into the spring and summer and expanding pretty quickly. But we're able to do a lot of the work we do even out of a small space, because we leverage digital fabrication. So are you familiar with what that means?
No, tell us more about that.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. It's kind of a techie term to hear. And so what digital fabrication is essentially leveraging robots and CNC machinery. So you can do all the programming on your computer. We have these beautiful 3D photorealistic designs online. And so we can design everything, to the millimeter in a van, and then send it over to a machine, and it cuts all of our framing, it cuts all the cabinetry. And the way we're able to kind of achieve those efficiencies is by, if you have robots do it, it comes out the same every time. And they essentially spit out Legos for adults. And so you grab all your parts off the machine, follow some simple instructions, and all of a sudden, boom, you've got a van about 3 weeks later.
Huh, that's so interesting. So, do you think that some of the lag time these other companies face is just the human effort that goes into manufacturing all these minuscule parts all over a van?
There's a lot of that. Certainly with the assembly process, it's very labor intensive. So we attempt to, how do we minimize the labor in a van? But one of the other ways that our business is kind of able to achieve this speed is that we try to offer, semi-custom packages, that we're not a full custom fabricator. And that's what a lot of these companies are. And there's design time and, back and forth meetings, that we try to make it sweet and simple. So our business proposition is we're a BYOV conversion company, where you bring your van to us, we'll convert it in 6 weeks or less. And as part of that, you get to choose a couple options. We have, a few layouts, whether it's, an adventure layout or a work from home layout, and you choose your layout, choose some optional upgrades, and then you can kind of choose your interior aesthetics. And because we have standardized layouts, we're able to repeatably, make the same thing at high quality and high speed time and time again. So that's part of the efficiency, is that we're not doing full custom from the ground up.
That's what I was wondering, is that like all the custom, just so much back and forth goes into it, and then, so much planning. And is there really a benefit to doing something so custom when you can just do kind of a plug and play model like you have, and it probably has all the comforts of home a person would need?
Yeah, and I think there's certainly trade-offs. Some people have these grandiose ideas and they want their genuine one of a kind van. And the custom route is perfect for them, but you have to recognize that comes with, more time and more expense to make that happen. Whereas having worked in the van space for 3 years, I've helped produce really over about 150 vans in the last 2 years, kind of through the design and manufacturing process. And what we find is people kind of want the same thing. Most of the time there's a few layouts you choose from. Everybody really wants a sink. If you get a hidden shower in there, that, we feel that if we offer these standard packages, we can offer, most of what people want in a custom route. But if it's cheaper and quicker, it's a much simpler process to go than, waiting over a year for your van.
Yeah, very true. And so, have you been achieving your goal of the 6 week turnaround?
So far, we've been pretty pleased with the production. That we, at some point, we actually want to reduce it even less than 6 weeks. We'd love to get to a point of, under a month. But as part of growing and scaling a business, you kind of have to add some padding in there to leave room for hiring and leave room for shop expansion and some of the admin work too that takes place.
Yeah, what do you think are some of the biggest challenges? I'd imagine getting like a huge enough shop space might be complicated, and all those machinery parts that you're using to manufacture the van.
Yeah, that's definitely a trick too, is that we're trying to grow and scale, hopefully to, 4 to 6,000 square feet here pretty soon. And in Boulder, it's tough to find those kind of shops. So that's definitely a challenge. And also just trying to grow a customer base. Like I think so often people have this mentality that building a business, you know, if you build it, they will come. And we've spent a lot of time doing that, getting legal contracts in place and liability insurance and how to get the, foundation of a business in there. And now we're ready to go. And now it's kind of like we got to start doing more marketing, get more customers to come. And I'm sure you've experienced that with Wayward Home. And it was kind of neat to hear your story that, you worked so hard for so long and, you really bear the fruit of your labor
Mhm.
often quite a bit further after that start point.
Yeah, yeah, so true. Building a business is a work in progress always, and it does take so much time and effort. But once you get it established, it's an amazing, beautiful thing. So, but it does take time, as you say. So it seems like there's so many van conversion companies popping up. Every which way I look, there's a new van conversion company. Is it hard to like stand out from all these companies out there?
Oh, I think that's a massive kind of issue for young businesses in the van space today. That I think the secret is finding some way to differentiate yourself, whether that's through your personality or your product offering, or, we're attempting to do things quicker than almost anybody else. And that's kind of our main value proposition that I really feel for a lot of these young builders that, you have the experience and you have the knowledge. You just kind of have to find your place in the market. And I think it'll be really interesting to see how the van space either expands or contracts in the coming years. Because if you look at the RV market, they've been around for, 50 to 70 years. And there's kind of like four main manufacturers. And right now in the US, there's hundreds of van conversion companies, mom and pop shops. And I think how that makes it great is you get this unique, personalized touch that somebody's actually caring for, each brushstroke of painting or each installation of whatever they're doing. And so I think the great part of the van industry right now is with all these small shops, you get some more personalized touches in your van and you get a better personal experience, when you go to buy it.
That's very true. And I'm sure also with like the hundreds of conversion companies, there's also like quality issues that people need to sort out. And I'm guessing that that's probably kind of hard. Like I know you've worked with a lot of companies, but like what advice would you give people looking for a company on figuring out, are they legit? Are they building good vans? Like how do you even know?
I think a big thing to me, my suggestion for anyone listening to this is, call that company, send them some emails, get to know them a bit, and understand, what their process is and what materials they use. Because that's a big thing that we use at Gravity Vans to differentiate ourselves, is that we use premium quality everything. Our cabinetry, it's custom made, but it's made out of Baltic birch, plywood, which is way more durable. We laminate everything instead of painting. And that's, another thing that most of these companies they paint and that will wear down with time, where the benefit of laminate is it's far more durable, easy to clean, it's scratch and scuff resistant. And so I think it's very easy, this day and age to see a clean Instagram photo and say, man, they must do incredible work. But getting to kind of know the background of what electrical components they're putting in there, what their cabinetry is like, take some time and due diligence. And so it's tough as a buyer because you just want to go and be excited about it. But I would definitely suggest, take your time, you know, call around, do a little bit of research to know what should I expect, in this van before you jump into, any builder you see online.
Totally. And it's not like you can just go and, tour every vans that these companies are making, but they are available at some like trade shows like Adventure Van Expo or Overland Expo. You can go look through some vans as well. So that could be possibly an option for people.
Yeah, so if you want to go check them out, come check us out. We will be at the Adventure Van Expos and Overland Expos throughout this spring and summer, whether that be in, Arizona, Colorado, kind of all over the US. We've got a bit of a summer tour if you want to come see our vans in person.
Oh, cool. Where are you going to be anywhere else besides those two events?
So both of those expo organizations have multiple events. So we will kind of be all over. We'll be at like the Sonoma version. We're hoping to be in Hood River. We're hoping to be in Colorado. So get on the calendar of, Adventure Van Expo and Overland Expo, and you can find us at each of those.
Very cool. And I'll also link to those in the show notes. People can go on there and look at what dates those events are. Because I've been to the Adventure Van Expo in Hood River, and it's really fun. And I would encourage anybody, looking at vans or van conversion companies to go to that. I think they're very educational and just fun to interact with all the different van enthusiasts. So hopefully I'll see you at one of those this summer.
Yeah, that would be great. It'd be nice to meet in person.
Yeah, cool. So what types of vans do you guys convert?
We work on the main three. So ProMasters, Ford Transits, and Mercedes Sprinter vans. Our primary focus right now is on ProMasters and Transits, mostly on the basis of I've helped convert over 150 essentially of those types. And so we have a lot more familiarity with what goes on in the van. And we're slowly working more into sprinters as well. But there's a lot of people that also do sprinters. So we're trying to focus more on these other builds that, are less known from other companies, that we want to serve all parts of the market, not just the sprinter vans.
Totally. And are you guys working on the new Ford Transit Trail? What are your thoughts on that van?
I think it's a fantastic van that you get some more of the optionalities that you see a lot of these, other conversion companies add on, whether that's the better suspension kit or the tires. It's great that they're trying to serve that market. And I'm hoping that some of these other companies, whether it be Ram or Mercedes, start to recognize that a lot of these people buying these vans don't want them for just cargo use. They want them for outdoor living. And how can we cater our product to that? Because at the end of the day, if we can get the manufacturers supporting this industry more, it's going to be cheaper for the customer than for us to add a suspension kit or for us to add extra windows to your van that, me as an individual, we make, if it's 10 or 30 or 50 vans a year, these large manufacturers are making tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands. And so it's always cheaper for them to put those options in there. So I'm really excited to see Ford, unveiling and kind of serving this nomadic living van life market specifically.
Very cool. And yeah, what do you think is going to happen with the van industry? I know it had a huge boom during COVID and it might have chilled out just a little. I've heard that from some people. I don't know if you've seen that, but what do you think is going to happen in the future?
I don't know. I'm not a future predictor. I would like to think I have, a guesstimate, but I don't even know if I'd say I have a beat on it. But I think if you look at the overall RV market and the RV industry, vans and Class B, RVs are a very small space of the overall market. And so whether or not, van life as a trend keeps taking off or more people are excited about living, I think there's also going to be a subset of people who have been living the RV life or, have a Class A motorhome that realize, wow, like I can now get all the amenities in a smaller space that's more versatile and more mobile. So I would like to think that the van industry, really has a long ways to go. And in addition to that, like I think there's different ways you can branch out beyond just the stereotypical adventure vans. That like one of the goals for our business is to expand into different markets, whether it be mobile businesses and offering mobile hair salons or mobile tanning solutions, or something I'm personally very passionate about is like healthcare. I used to work for a medical device company providing great solutions to people that, I believe that the van is just a vessel, like anything else, like a cracker, you put it in hummus, you put it in cheese dip, you have all these great options for it. And right now people are mostly using vans for just adventuring. And I'd love to serve people in rural areas with, a mobile medical clinic. How can we serve people in areas like we have the van and we have the production capability to convert the inside. Some people want a bed and other people need, an inspection chair to have their doctor look at them.
Oh, wow. You have so many cool ideas. Hopefully we'll see those come to fruition in the next couple of years. That's so awesome. So yeah, let me think, because you said you had an adventure package and a lot of people are doing the adventure van kind of build outs. What does your van mobile office package look like?
That's a really good question since we're hoping to unveil it here in a couple weeks. So we have a foundational layout right now, and we're rolling out 3 or 4 more layouts here in the coming weeks. And so with the work from home, we're looking at a raising and lowering desk so you can be seated, or standing. Because if you're trying to work full time in your van, you want to have some of those ergonomics, not just stuck to an uncomfortable bench seat. We're looking at doing dual monitors as well. So that way, if you're really working in finance or anything else, you really need those screens to be productive. And then just some of the regular amenities of a vehicle, still having the bed in there, still having a hidden shower so that you can have life on the road, but you can also have an efficient workplace setup. So the big things are the monitors, the desk, and then, mobile internet, whether that's through WeBoost or Starlink.
Very cool. And so you're unveiling these next layouts in the future?
Yeah, very soon in the coming weeks. So we've been working on these designs for a while that, in the 6 week model, we have to have it tried, true, prototyped, and R&D before we release it. Otherwise, if we say, hey, come check this out in 6 weeks, and it's the first time we're doing it, we'd be much slower at that.
Very true. So if someone wants to work with you guys, what's this process and what should they do?
Yeah, we're pretty easy to get a hold of. We like to make it very clear and transparent. Our pricing's all online. You can walk through a little form builder that you can select your vehicle, select your package, select your options, and get a final price. And so the easiest way to get on our schedule is just either reach out via email or give us a call. Everything's on our site at gravityvans.com, and we'll be happy to plug you into the schedule because we have a good amount of availability here in the spring, and we're starting to book out in the summer, but always looking for more builds.
Cool, that's exciting. I love that people can actually see the price because I've been to a lot of van conversion company websites and they give this huge range and it's like, but what is the price? So I like that you guys offer that.
Yeah, that's very important to me, is that, part of the, streamlined building is we should have a hassle-free process to get vans that, by eliminating some of the options and saying, oh, you can choose 110 things in this van, we've got about 10 or so choices. And so it makes it a lot easier to jump through those decisions, know exactly what each of those decisions cost. And then you can be satisfied at the end, not knowing that there's hidden fees or, it's going to take, another 2 months beyond what we forecasted. That we want it to be simple and quick so that you get introduced to Gravity Vans, and 6 weeks later, you're thrilled with your build and out the door, and you didn't have to waste any summer waiting for your build.
Very cool. So someone would just go out and purchase their van and maybe they could finance their van, do what they want, and then they bring that van to you guys, right?
Exactly. So that's the crux of what we do, is that typically we do BYOV conversions. Every now and again, we will purchase a van, kind of use it for some marketing use, and then go to sell it. And so at the moment, we actually have a van for sale listed up on our site and offering kind of a specialty discount to anyone who's on Wayward Home podcast listening to this right now, that if you are the first to come find the van, we're happy to give you a $2,000 discount on the list price. So if you're listening and looking, hopefully you get to us first.
That's a very cool offer. Well, that's super exciting. And I hope one of my listeners takes advantage of that. So that's very generous of you. Thank you. And yeah, definitely going to get the podcast up quickly so people can jump on that.
You gotta add some incentives there, make it fun.
Yeah, totally. Cool. Well, yeah. Well, is there anything else that you wanted to add that we missed?
Not a lot. I'm just very excited and kind of to be on the podcast, and very excited to get to know you a little bit and really just see where Gravity Vans goes, in hopes that, we start building a big business and can serve other industries as well beyond just the adventurers, but, having a heart for those with, rural medical needs.
Very cool. Well, we'll be tracking your progress and putting all the links to Gravity in the show notes. So hopefully someone will, check you out and come to the expos this summer and all kinds of fun stuff on the calendar. So thanks so much for coming on and telling us about Gravity. That was so fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you having me out.